Sound check.
Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear the room okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Are we on, Megan?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Good morning, everyone. We're tuning in to the Board of County Commissioners check-in. Today, it is 10:05 on January 6th, 2022. I am the chair of the board, Carolina Mejia. On Zoom is Vice Chair Commissioner Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards, and to his left is our County Manager Ramiro Chavez. We're also joined in the boardroom by Clerk of the Board, Amy Davis, and as well as Megan Porter, our PIO. Okay, with that, I will, it's reports on external boards and committees. So I'll start with Commissioner Edwards. Oh,
Ma'am, with your, I do have under commission items, an item.
okay, I'm sorry, I might not have the updated agenda.
It's not in there. I just would like for you to give the time to discuss this. The item is meeting minutes.
Okay.
And I think Amy, myself will probably walk through some of those items, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yes, no, that's perfect. Okay.
Are we ready?
Yep.
I'm up.
Well, no, are we gonna discuss meeting
Either
minutes
way,
first?
however you want to do it.
Well, I guess since Amy and Elizabeth are here, let's go ahead and discuss meeting minutes.
Okay, that's this.
Yeah, so as a matter of, we have received public testimony related to, and writing it was verbally related to meeting minutes. First, I'm gonna ask Amy to walk through how we manage meeting minutes. And also, I'd like to acknowledge there is some meeting minutes that we're still working to get to that point. And lastly, I'd like to probably address some of the recent comments related to all meeting minutes. They should be available to the public, and I have that will be the last part of that. Amy?
Good morning, Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. So currently, just kind of our process, so we scan approved signed minutes into our Laserfish system that is accessible online at any time to the public. Regarding the BoCC meeting minutes for Tuesdays at 2 p.m., we are just needing to route a few of those for signature from the end of last year, and then they will be processed. Regarding any other meeting minutes for agenda setting, board work sessions, any other regularly scheduled meeting, we have those minutes or work session summaries, as they used to be called, stored internally. As far as I know, these have not been posted online in the past, and they have not been in my time here either. We often do receive requests from from staff of departments who are not involved in the briefing, but who may be interested or would like the information. And we also receive requests from members of the public every once in a while, and we typically just are very easily able to share those with them. And then I would like to just take a quick moment to mention the meeting management system. We did not have the capacity to implement that last year, but it is a priority for 2022. The system will better enable us to do so, to just post all meeting minutes online if that is board preference, as well as link the YouTube videos, packets, all in one easily accessible place.
Any questions?
Commissioner Edwards?
No, I don't have any questions at this point in time. I mean, I have some discussion points.
Commissioner Menser?
Yes. Two questions. One is and I think these are for Elizabeth probably, but one question is, you said the meetings that are not the 2 p.m. meetings, the other regular meetings during the week, work sessions, etc., they're stored internally, they're not posted online. Is there any legal requirement that they have to be posted online? That's question one. Question two, those meeting minutes, you said they're easy to get, and the public comment said that they had to make a public records request versus being able to come in and just be provided the copy. So I want to know how that's being handled.
So let me, that will be a good segue to the next portion of the conversation, Commissioner. And I think I can probably address some of your questions with this explanation. I believe you have a copy, hopefully you have a copy of Resolution 15817. And that, I'm sorry,
I can email it to Tyler.
we can email that to you quickly. I'm sorry about that. The board has a copy, the board members here have a copy. So this particular resolution outline, that's the current resolution, and we're in the process of revising this. Is this all related to the board meetings, special meetings, and all that? This, as you may recall, this is very encompassing. And that was put on hold until we can resolve a couple of items related to revision of this ordinance, which is 15817. So you seen that? So under this resolution, 15817, on the last page of this resolution, which is related to County Code 2.02.050, is as a public records index. And I believe that is probably what you're asking is, what is the legal requirement for us to post just about everything, briefing, work sessions, and all the documentation associated with that. So let me read this out loud, because I believe the board, and this is not new, this resolution was signed on October 15, 2019, but this section has been in place for years. So the public record index on this resolution states as follows. The Board of County Commissioners find that it will be unduly burdensome and costly to Thurston County taxpayers and will interfere with effective and timely county office operations to develop an index of all current records as specified in RCW 42.17.20, parentheses 3. County office operations are complex, diverse, and changeful, and the board and its departments and divisions receive and produce volumes of correspondence, reports, surveys, studies, and other records. The board and its departments and divisions will make available for public inspection and copying all indices prepared pursuant the other authority. Many county offices and departments do actually maintain some type of an index, which generally changes frequently as documents are created and disposed. Upon request, a copy of the index can be provided. So as Amy stated, when members of the public request on the specific minutes of a specific briefing, we'll make it available without a public records request. On this latest public records request, we're going to be responding to the public records request as we have it. That is as the request is all the minutes for all the meetings in 2021. And the purpose of the public records is not to withhold information, is to make sure that we have enough time to provide those responsive documents related to that request. So that is the preempt of that, and that's what I asked Elizabeth to be part of this conversation, if she feels comfortable to share this on this briefing, or maybe moving into an executive session if that is the case.
Commissioner Menser, did your questions get answered? Both of them? I know you had a two-part question.
Yeah, the first part was, is there any legal requirement that all minutes be posted on the internet, or like versus the way they're being, as Amy said, held internally? Are we violating any state law or otherwise by doing it the way we're doing it? That was my first question.
If that question, are you directing that question to me, Commissioner Menser?
Anyone who can answer it, I'm assuming that's you.
Okay. I would be happy to answer that question, but I would only do it in an executive session. You have recently received a letter threatening litigation against yourself as a result of one of these issues, and it's not appropriate for me to give you legal advice in a public setting, but I would be happy to do that in an executive session.
Okay, and then Commissioner Edwards?
I guess I would like to follow up on Commissioner Menser's question. And what I'm following up on is Ty asked if it needed to be posted online. I think that's the way he phrased his question. I wonder if I couldn't expand that same question, and I guess I'm gonna get roughly the same answer from council at this point in time. But I think you're looking at questions that you're gonna be required to answer for the board and possibly an executive session. So I'll give you the question, then you'll know what I'm concerned about. So I wanna expand on Ty's question, and instead of online, I wanna know online or in print for the public that walks into the office. So I want to expand his just a little bit. And then I guess what we do, it kind of refers to promptly. I think in the legislation that has this requirement. And I know usually when I ask a question, what does promptly mean? I get a standard response generally from almost any attorney I ask this question of, well, it all depends. Well, and that is pretty broad, but it does depend on the situation, I suppose, the length of the recording or such. So I can see where it depends, but still, what does promptly really mean? And then under the RCW or is it the RCW? No, the Public Records Index request, I guess. I'm referring to the last page that the county manager read from. That's under 2.02.050. Do we have the luxury of saying we can disregard the law per se because something is burdensome to us? I mean, is that something that we can say and legally defend so we don't have a problem? So that's kind of where my questions lie. What? Oh, okay.
I think it would be best to go into executive session. Do my seatmates agree with me on that?
Well, Ty has it.
And Ty, Commissioner Menser, go ahead.
If we're going to go into executive session, then I can withdraw. I had two more. If the executive session was going to happen at a different time, I had two more things I wanted to add to that agenda that I would want addressed in that executive session. But if we're doing that now, I don't need to get into that.
And then Elizabeth, go ahead.
If you want an executive session to discuss the questions that are being brought up in this meeting, I would like that executive session be scheduled tomorrow or another time. I would like to be able to provide comprehensive answers, and I am not able to do that on the spot without having all the documents.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's kind of why I was stating my questions as I did, so that you have time to take a look at that. And, you know, I don't think it's fair to you for us to put you on the spot right now without any research time.
And Commissioner Menser has questions, I believe, as well. Go ahead.
Well, let me just go back then and say, I would also like to address, number one, the resolution that Ramiro was quoting from, which I have on my screen now, thank you. We stopped our revision of that based on some litigation that had been filed, and I'd like to know the status of that. Number two, I would like to know if there's anything in law or county code that puts a particular responsibility on the chair of the board to be responsible for the posting of or minutes, because that was an allegation made in public comment. And I'd like to know if there's any basis for that contention, that it's specifically the duty of the chair of the board, not the vice chair or the other commissioner.
Yeah, and Commissioner Menser brings up a good point. Last year when we had these conversations, we paused it we paused these conversations due to litigation. So I feel a status update would be beneficial for all of us to see how to proceed with this. Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I agree, there was something in reference to litigation. I guess I'm not sure there was any litigation actually brought against any of us or the county. So I guess that'd be my question. Was there any litigation really filed? I guess there was talk of litigation and possibly a concern of litigation, but I never did hear if there was something filed.
It was.
There was something
Yeah,
filed.
and we'll touch
Oh,
base on that.
okay, good
It
enough.
was filed against Commissioner Hutchings and myself, not you, Commissioner Edwards. So that's maybe why you don't remember it.
Okay.
Okay. So then,
Okay, so
more
I will schedule an executive session. Would it be okay to schedule this executive session on Tuesday morning at the end of agenda setting? Go ahead.
Elizabeth has her hand up.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I will not be able to attend that. I will be out of the office next week, but after next week, I'm available.
So let me see if we can find a time for tomorrow. How long do you think an executive session will last, Elizabeth? You think, based on the questions you have received?
Is tomorrow adequate for council?
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Potentially, but I would need to gather some records. I would like to have a little bit more time. I
Okay.
want to be more comprehensive.
So let's plan on the 18th then. January 18, at the end of agenda setting.
I believe January 18th is a holiday.
No, the holiday is on the 17th.
So, I'm looking at the last calendar.
Can I bring up a point, Chair?
Go ahead.
I'd just like to ask a
Yes.
clarification.
Yes.
When we have a holiday that falls on the day before a meeting, do we have the meeting? It seems like I remember something in the past.
No, my understanding of the statute is if a scheduled meeting falls in a holiday, you need to reschedule for the following day. No meetings of the Board of County Commissions have ever been scheduled during a holiday.
No, but, so we're okay the next day?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
So,
So I'll connect with you, Elizabeth, to work through the schedule, and when we can probably have this executive session.
so is there a direction that we need to give staff, just because I know that some of the comment as well as the emails contain certain dates where they expected a response from us, so I just want to make sure that, you know, if we're gonna schedule this kind of like a week and a half out, that staff is clear on how to move forward.
So we have a pending public records, and we'll be responding to the public record.
Okay,
I don't think that is the question today, if I may.
okay,
But we're required to provide the response to the public records, and we will respond accordingly to the public records request.
And Chair, could I ask just a clarifying issue?
yes, sir, go ahead.
Council, when you look at this, and Ty kind of touched on it, but would you see if we need to keep a ledger, a book, something available for the public when they walk in. So say we have a meeting the first week, for an example. I'm trying to figure out what promptly means, but, so like maybe a week later, a citizen would walk in and want to clarify something that I said or one of my seatmates said. I know we try to keep those on YouTube and tape, but if we're having a debate or voting or arguing an issue, sometimes people want to know where their representative might stand on it. And some people don't have online access. So could they come to the counter? And if so, are we required to have the minutes from a prior meeting? And now, I guess that in itself is a question, you know, what is the regular, okay, is it a regular Tuesday meeting? But what about the work session that we discussed, issues prior to that meeting, because we're gonna take an official vote, maybe in the meeting, but we worked on it, a week ahead of time. Do those notes need to be available? And does the citizen always have to put in a freedom of information request for those type of recordings, whether written or otherwise? So a lot of things for you to clarify, I guess. I hope we give you enough time.
Okay, so Commissioner Menser, one more question? Go ahead.
Just one more comment. I think it's really important for the board to understand the legal limits versus what we might be able to do, what might be good policy that we want to do. We often do things above and beyond the bare minimum of the law, and those are good policy discussions. It just seems like this is always framed by the citizens in terms of illegal, you're going to be recalled. You violated your oath of office. You are violating the Open Public Meetings Act. Like, so we need to know those two, we need to know where is that threshold legal risk. We're not doing things legally. And then we can talk about, well, how might we want to do it? Maybe we don't want to just have maybe we want to have a more accessible policy because we think that's a good thing to do. But this conversation always gets confused because I think a lot of things that are good ideas to discuss are always framed in terms of legality and illegality, and that confuses the issue greatly. And we need to make sure that we unravel that and have that clear.
I comment one other thing. I have a philosophy. I mean, that's my philosophy, and I'm not saying it isn't. Maybe it's everybody's philosophy, but I would always like to do the right thing. And what is the right thing? I'm not interested in circumventing possibly a requirement or a law. I want to do the right thing all the time, not figure out a way around it, but do the right thing. So I don't know if that helps you make a clarification as to what Commissioner Menser brought up there, because sometimes there's a way, well, if we do this, we don't have to do this, and I want to always do the right thing. So I'll just end with that. Thank you.
And just for a closing comment, and this to the benefit of all the public out there, I think you're right. The important thing is how the public can get access to the conversations the Board of County Commissioners have. And that is creating a record of your conversations. And over the last 2 years, we have created a record of just about every single meeting that you have held. And that record includes verbatim all the conversations that you had on any item. And that record is also available online to anybody who can go and look at any type of conversation that it might be. So I just want to, for the benefit of the public, general public, that we do have a significant record of all your meetings online.
So can I just, I'll do another line of questioning. I know we're kind of on this, but I'm gonna go and take it back to the management system that Amy has been working on. And I know that, judges have the electronic system where they can sign on the pads, and I was wondering, I believe it was Yakima County now has that, where they're signing the resolutions as soon as they're passing them, like, just electronically, or through the pad. Would that be something beneficial for us here, or is it just way out of, is the budget just will blow up because of this?
I think that is, excuse me, board preference, and we can implement something like that since we have that system, if you'd like.
I mean, would it be beneficial to staff if we were to have something like that?
And anything the board would like to do, we certainly will implement that. But also, and with all the respect, I've heard the counter argument to that. Meaning, and why am I gonna be signing something not being rushed? Because I'm not being able to read those resolutions and ordinances. So I've heard that argument as well as being rushed. And that's also a risk the board may need to take. And that's what we have is that red book circulates, gives you opportunity to read it, and then sign it. And it takes time. And that's the nature of the process. But if the board would like to get a more expedited process that you will sign those as soon as you take an action, we can accommodate that if that's the direction of the board.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Evans.
I guess in response to the county manager saying that everything is verbatim, that is exactly true. We've been very diligent, I believe, on trying to make sure we have a recording of all of our activities, and a visual and audio recording as a general rule, unless we have some kind of a breakdown like the other day. The power went out and we're sitting here with flashlights and trying to do business. That's gonna take a while to work through that. But that's the exception. But my concern is that even though we have that available to some citizens, do we have that available to the old-fashioned citizens that wanna read it? Or does that suffice? If it's online, does that meet all the legal requirements? That's another question. And it sounds like in the end, with the chair and us as commissioners, we could end up causing ourselves more work, and consequently that might be true, but it might be necessary if we're gonna keep the public informed 100% about what we're doing. So
So can I just add one more thing, because we're talking about meeting minutes, but there was another issue that was also brought up, and it was about resolutions. So Elizabeth, can we also, kind of the line of questioning, how that has gone, can we also include resolutions? Are those supposed to be available online, or can, people just come into the office and request them? So kind of around the same line of questioning towards the resolutions that we pass as well, please. Okay, so with that,
get on to normal stuff?
get on to the normal stuff. Ramiro, any more?
No, I'll touch base with you, Elizabeth, when you're ready to have this executive session.
Okay. So with that, we're gonna go on to the reports on external boards and commissions. So we'll start with Commissioner Edwards.
Okay, the only one that I have that is an activity that's of consequence at this point to discuss with the board is the Fair Board met last night. And I'd like to hear a little more, maybe from staff, and I think that would be Josh, I believe. They got a grant from, I believe, the state of Washington. And it might have been several $100,000.
$250,000.
250, okay. And how to expend that grant to the benefit of the citizens of Thurston County, I think we need to have a discussion on that. I know we have talked about setting aside some money putting a building up that would solve a lot of the needs of the fair, but it would also serve to help us in other endeavors. Like we're going through this virus now, we're a couple of years into this thing, and we're always looking for a space to do business. And how can we do that in the most effective manner possible? I think this building could be designed to deal with that problem. And then the offshoot of that benefit would be we can also lease that building out after we get through this virus, or until the next virus comes along or the next variant comes along, and actually make it pay for itself. So I've brought up the fact I'd like to see if the CARES money could not be utilized in this process. And the county manager said we're gonna have a meeting coming up and discuss that. But to me, with the fair, dealing with what they're dealing with, are they gonna have a fair? Are they not gonna have a fair? Segments of the fair, who can participate? The carnival is a big thing with the fair, but the carnival people are wondering if they can participate. So, I mean, there's a lot of things up in the air about the fair, but I would certainly like to get going sooner than later. And I see the county manager's got his hand up, but I did notice that there is full metal construction buildings available. And to what extent that is, I don't know, it was under 200,000 for 100 by 100 foot building. And so I think there might be a way that we could have the existing property once we get it leveled and tore down and get it within a reasonable amount of money and get a covered space closed in, ready to go. We can always modify as time goes along. So that's the only report I have as far as my outside activities.
Go ahead, County Manager.
So I do have an answer to your question, in that that briefing is gonna be for January 25th.
Oh, thank you.
So it's coming up. I just received, and just to, a couple of 3 years ago, the board authorized $250,000 to have a signature project in the fairgrounds. The result of that is that $250,000 never was related to an actual project. It was a contribution to do something, a signature project. So the fair board has gone through the process of determining what will be the best project that can be used. And I think you're describing what that project is. That project is not gonna cost $250,000 or $500,000, and that's coming from the fair board. So we have an estimate. We have I believe what the board has set aside $250,000 still available. And also the fair board has received a grant for $250,000 from the state. So I think it's about $500,000 what we have, and that, at least from what I've read, is not enough to build that vision. So on January 25th, we'll come back, staff will brief the board as to what the vision is, what the project is, and what perhaps a potential financial plan could be.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Menser?
The only outside border commission I wanted to touch base on, and I think I mentioned this a couple months ago, but I don't expect you guys to remember it. It relates to the Chehalis Basin Partnership. That's a long-standing group that's done watershed planning, and it took over the responsibility for drafting the Streamflow Restoration Act plan. And so if you remember that when the Hearst fix got put in place by the legislature, Ecology tacked on a well fee. A little bit of that was kept locally, but a big chunk went to Ecology and is sitting in a pot. And it's supposed to be allocated for implementation of the projects and plans and stuff. So the Chehalis Basin Partnership decided that money was just sitting there, and they figured out that around $90,000 had been collected from Chehalis Basin projects, wells that were drilled and paid this fee. And they thought it was appropriate to ask for some of that money to come back to the partnership because the partnership is still meeting to monitor implementation and support grants for different projects around the basin that are in the watershed plan. My understanding was that they got an initial no, but then they were able to negotiate kind of a sit-down meeting about it because some of the ecology folks that advise us said, we think this is appropriate. So you should ask. So this kind of happened over Christmas and I missed a little bit, but I think the answer was no, but they're going to have a meeting. But at the same time, there was a request that I went through in my email about whether or not the Thurston County, myself, or maybe the board would support this request at a certain point in time. So I don't think there's anything right now, but I just wanted to give you guys this background and have you think about it in case we're asked to support this request for some or all of that $90,000 to go to the Chehalis Basin Partnership to support its activities in implementing the Stream Flow Restoration Act. So again, no ask right now, but there was a suggestion that there may be a request for us to provide some support to ecology for that request. And anyway, if you have any questions about that, let me know, but I just wanted to give you guys heads up.
I think that's a great request. I mean, I
do too.
would be willing to.
But I do have one question, Commissioner
Go
Menser.
ahead.
Yeah.
I want to get this, I want to clarify this. Did you say that that money that is set aside is, that's all you would be able to ask for is what's actually those wells that were drilled within the Chehalis drainage area?
Yep.
So they have that all mapped out apparently, like maybe 1/3 of Thurston County is in that area. And what,
That's about right.
2/3 are in Lewis and Grays Harbor's got a bunch. So that would be the area to get money from to complete the project that you might be talking about, right? Is that it?
Yeah, and we have a project or two in Thurston County that's part of our plan that's actually moving forward with grant applications and stuff. But the money doesn't, I don't know that the money, I mean, they're not gonna, within the basin, they don't have to like divvy it out by piece of county, but it's the money, it's only the well fees from the Chehalis Basin that have to go back to the Chehalis Basin for implementation. And you're correct. That's about 1/3 of Thurston County, a big chunk of Lewis, Grays, I think almost all of Grays Harbor. Yeah. And so our project suite or our project list is projects scattered all around that basin.
Just one other thing, I would like to see, kind of like what we've done with salmon enhancement. We've used a lot of our local money, and that's kind of seed money, and then we brought in a lot of outside money to accomplish the mission. So I think it's a great idea that you've got in place, and I'd like to see us utilize that money to see if we can't bring in the total amount that we might need to do the project. Thank you.
Yep, there's a lot of that going on. Yeah, they're pretty good about that in the Chehalis.
Well, that's good. Well, hopefully that meeting goes well. Okay, my turn. I had SWAC and intercity transit. Not really much to report with SWAC. We reviewed the bylaws that we sent for that change of the word, the if, and there was really, everyone was pretty okay with it, but there will probably be another change coming in terms of when elections are held. The bylaws state that elections are usually held in January, but usually when the first meeting is, we don't know who's going to be appointed in multiple jurisdictions. So the change that the SWAC advisory board is sending back to us is to move the elections to February once we have kind of we know who's going to be appointed to that board. Other than that, we just talked about.
Just a quick question on the elections. Are those the elections of the SWAC chair, vice chair?
Yes.
That's okay.
Mhm.
Right, thank you.
And other than that, we talked about our legislative priorities. WASAC came and presented that, and so we'll see what comes down the pipeline. And intercity transit, not much to report on that. It was a short meeting, but I think one of the things to note was there was a lot of comments from citizens in regards to many of the drivers and facilities who were out helping community members and going above and beyond. So that was just really good to hear. Other than that, I'll end it right there. Go ahead, Commissioner Menser.
Question for you on intercity transit. Do they have, is there a succinct way to say kind of where they're at in terms of like restoring full pre-pandemic service? Are they at like 60% or 80% or do you know?
So they're kind of around 60% right now. And just with Omicron, I think they are really hesitant. So they're kind of in that holding pattern just to see what else comes down the pipeline. I know that I think we're up to 70% because we've slowly been adding more and more of those old routes back. But just with everything, going on, I think they kind of slowed down again just to see where we go from here. But that's where we are.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Commissioner items. Commissioner Edwards, we'll start with you.
Well, we've put together quite a work schedule for figuring out what we're gonna do with council on some of the things, and so that's pending. So that was gonna be one of my issues, but it sounds like we've got that one pretty well under control. And the county manager has already got my fare thing all figured out for me, so that's,
No, I just responded to that.
so that's where I was gonna go with that. So I don't have any super burning issues. I'm very concerned right now about flood possibilities with mainly the Nisqually, but all the jurisdictions. And by any chance, did we get a report back about how our flood mitigation program in Rochester turned out? Because we should have high groundwater down there. Is it working out now?
Well, I think
Settling
it's yet to be seen because the rain, significant rain. I just heard that as to this morning, and the Olympia area will have received 1.2 inches of rain since yesterday. So, and we expect to have, until this is over, I believe by tomorrow morning, close to 3 inches here in Olympia.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to see how there is a flood warning on all the creeks and streams, not just in Thurston County, but in other counties. Public Works is ready to respond to that. And related to the groundwater, we just have to see, usually groundwater resurfaces a little bit later than when the storm. So we just have to see how that we need to respond.
So more to come on that
Yes, sir.
particular issue. Okay, then at the other end of the county, the other side, is the Nisqually River. And we've had problems over the past with the Nisqually. And Kurt is taking on a new assignment with Public Health. And so Ben Todd Miller, I believe it is filling in for Kurt. And I've been in communication through staff with him, and he seems to be staying on top of that. It's a big issue. I'm just hoping that we make sure we stay on top of that, because what's going on is right now we've got this warm trend with all this rain coming. We've got all that heavy snow that snowed in the higher country, so we're gonna have some pretty serious melt. And I'm hoping that maybe the county manager can kind of check in on where we're at from the emergency end of things with communication with Tacoma Power and Light, because there's always been that issue where they kind of hold back and try to make as much money as they can, which I don't blame them, but I think the safety of our citizens and the Nisqually River Bridge with I-5 and all that, I mean, it's such a big issue if something goes haywire, so I'd like to make sure my seatmates are very much aware and the county manager is kind of pushing on that.
Yeah, you're absolutely on point, and the coordination with the Commonwealth Power continues, the conversations continues. I know that you have a lot of emails coming your way, but they did send a report yesterday on the weather conditions, which includes a graph of the water behind the dam. And even in the projections of the amount of rain they're expecting, as I recall, the graph states that doesn't reach the critical levels yet. But we don't know, because we don't know if the rain, the melting of the snow will have another one. I believe it's another report may be coming up tomorrow, and I will continue to share that with the board. But the communications with the Commonwealth Power will continue as we have.
Okay, thank you.
I met with Kurt yesterday and Ben Miller-Todd, and it was one of my questions specifically too. I asked him, I was like, how are we with Nisqually and that flood area? And he said they were keeping a close eye on it, and that they were receiving a lot of citizens' calls and concerns through email, and that they were being sure and answering those in a timely fashion. So I guess more to come on that, and just have our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have
Oh,
any more
no,
questions?
that was
Okay.
kind of my main thing, because I really think it is of utmost importance we stay on top of this, so
Okay.
that's fine.
Commissioner Menser?
Thank you. I wanted to address Planning Commission. My understanding is we have a number of vacancies. When there's only 5 people, that means if somebody gets COVID or can't make a meeting, they may not even have a quorum. So I know we have this new way of each, one of the vacancies is my district, and I have an applicant that I would like to nominate, and then I don't know how much time is needed between me making that nomination and then the board being able to exercise a vote. But I'd rather do it sooner rather than later, so that they've got a little extra flexibility. You know, if there was only 1 or 2 vacancies, that's one thing, but I think they have 4, if I'm not correct.
4 vacancies, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't, my commissioner that stepped down was the only female on the board, so I really would like to see more women added to the Planning Commission, but I only have 1 applicant for my district, and it's not a female, it's a male, but it's a really strong applicant. It's Joel Hansen, who has served on the Tumwater Planning Commission on the Citizen Committee for the Port. He is willing to step down off Tumwater so he could devote more time to Thurston County issues. He's got experience with agriculture, got experience with solar energy, has experience with, issues with the port and the Tumwater Planning Commission. So I think he has an excellent resume for this. I'll be putting him forward right now. And then you guys tell me, like, how much, when we could contemplate approving that nomination.
Commissioner, do you have an application?
Yes, he has already applied.
Okay, so we'll bring this to have Amy added to Tuesday's conversation, and maybe we can distribute that application ahead of time, if that is the case, and you have your 2 board members can have the opportunity to review that.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Alberts.
On the Planning Commission, I also have a nomination, and that's Barry Halverson. And Barry Halverson had put in several years ago, I think, and there was 1 opening, and he did not get that. I think Barry Halverson has that same interest. He's shown his interest. He's with the Lakes Management folks. He's very concerned about how things are done in Thurston County. He's got a big interest in lakes, but He's very interested, and I think he would be an excellent replacement for my position.
Can I just, sir, I'm just gonna do a comment, but, you know, I won't go, I know that's your choice, but, you know, you have 3 LMD members currently in your district that are serving on the planning commission. Mr. Casino, Mr. Carmen, and now Mr. Halverson. So just to bring that up to your attention.
Well, let me just follow up on that Mr. Casino was not my appointment. I was overruled in a prior prior Board of County Commissioners decision. I had asked that Barry be put on there, and for some reason, some folks didn't agree with me, and so their choice was to put Mr. Casino on. So even though I'm only directly involved in that one position, I think I'm entitled to pick somebody that kind of agrees with me on how to do things. So unfortunately, maybe Doug or somebody is one of the at-large people. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so I also will bring up a nomination. I only had one applicant as well, and this is for Mr. DeLeon's. He submitted his formal resignation from the Planning Commission. So for that, I will be appointing, the one application I received was from Helen Wheatley. And so that has to be in my district, and all the other applications were not from my district, so so I'm gonna go, that's gonna be my formal nomination, I guess, and then.
Is there any reason that because we do have these vacancies, that we just couldn't move forward on this on our next Tuesday meeting with these 3 nominees? Sounds like we all have one.
I think if I may recall the process, the board agreed was each one of you will bring a nomination, you will review those applications, and you eventually will take a vote.
Yeah.
That's the process. Go ahead.
I would ask that we perhaps plan on, or at least shoot for adding these to the agenda of the 18th, because the Planning Commission is hoping to hold their elections on the 19th, their meeting on the 19th.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, I'm fine with my seatmates with their nominations. I have no problem.
And Commissioner Mejia, do you have the 4th one, correct? Is that right? Like you have 2 openings, is that?
So,
Am I right
yeah,
about that?
so I believe Mr. DeHaan's,
He resigned, right?
no, he's seeking a reappointment, and his expired on December, so I'm gonna wait just a little bit longer to see if more applications come through, and if not, then I will be reappointing him. But I just wanted to make sure that at least we got Mr. DeLille's seat filled, since that was empty for a longer time.
And then is Mr. DeHaan's seat an at-large seat? I mean, or could it be an at-large seat?
No, sir. I
Has to be district.
I believe that my previous appointment earlier this year was my at-large seat
Okay,
last year. So,
okay, it's good to know.
and so with Ms. Wheatley, some of her qualifications, which she is qualified, she has experience with agriculture and several environmental issues. She's on the Conservation District Board, and so, and she has shown up several times to the our own Agriculture Advisory Committee. So, that's just.
So if you have applications, can you please send it to Amy?
So Amy was the one who
I
sent them to me, yeah, so.
Amy's got these applications
Amy
as far as
sent
I
them,
know.
yeah.
You have an application from Mr. Halverson as well?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So Amy sent me that application.
Good.
So.
Amy, you did not, Mr. Halverson's was not among the ones you sent me. So I know he had previously applied, so I just like to have that for my record since we're doing it that way.
I'll distribute all of them.
Okay.
Being we're talking about committee assignments, I believe there's some openings on the ag committee now. And I know, Mr. Shorno had put in but was not selected the last time. And he has expressed an interest again, as far as I know, and would like to be appointed if there's an opening. And I would advocate for him. I think he's probably one of the bigger agricultural production people, and I know his educational background covers ag at the university level, so.
Let's talk about the ag committee. Okay.
Okay.
So, I was pleased to see Mr. Schoner had an interest to apply again to be on it. And my suggestion last time was, let's wait until we have, just because of the emails that were coming in, let's wait until we have the official guide or handbook. And then after that, we can hopefully
Okay.
get it functioning again. But I've just received news from that committee that, there's even more dysfunction coming on, and I have some concerns. I'm gonna wait for something more official to come through before I bring it up to the board, but I don't even know where to start.
Okay, well, let's not rush it.
Okay, any more commissioner items?
I have one more.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Menser.
So I brought this up a couple of times. I'm just kind of checking back in on it. The concept of a Deschutes Watershed Council. This would have been, if our watershed plan that we submitted or that we were preparing to submit had been adopted and submitted, it embedded in it was the creation of this council. So if you recall, at the last minute, the building industry of Washington Association, whatever, did not vote, and it has to be a complete consensus. So we did not actually submit a consensus plan. But I was approached by some of the stakeholders from the committee saying, well, why won't we do it? Why wouldn't we do it anyway? I mean, everyone agreed, and that wasn't even the problem with building industry of Washington. So everyone agreed who was part of that process that this was something that should happen. And I've had a couple of conversations with the county manager about it. We talked about, who would host it, whether it would be Squaxin Island Tribe would be a good representative. I floated that idea past Ray Peters, and they're, I think, going to get back to me. I, after that, learned that the Conservation District got a grant that Sarah Moorhead, their executive director, thought would be very well suited for them to support this. Now, again, it's a time-limited grant, might be for a couple of years, but anyway, I just want to bring this back up. I don't know, Jennifer Davis and I were talking about it, and then she, kind of moved on. So I'm not sure where ecology's at with the rulemaking for the Deschutes watershed plan. I'd kind of like to get an update on that from staff, and I'd like to know if there's been any reach out. I did talk to Josh a couple months ago about reaching out to the Conservation District and seeing what they had up their sleeve, and if that was a way to get this thing stood up. But anyway, I didn't want to go too much further with it without kind of circling back to the board and making sure that my seatmates had interest in having this pursued. Because I think we could get it done. There's a lot of interest in it. It'd be similar to the Nisqually River Council, but a stakeholder group for the Deschutes.
Sounds like, if I may, a good option is the Thurston Conservation District could take the lead.
Yeah.
That will be probably more straightforward to the formation of this council. And even if the Squaxin Island would like to take on after the grant is complete, that might be an option as well.
would my seatmates feel comfortable if I reached out to the Conservation District and see what the options could be for us to do something like that?
Yes, sir. I
Sure.
would feel.
Yep.
All right, I'll follow up and report back.
Yeah, no, especially if they have a grant, I feel like that's stars aligned. Okay, County Manager Chavez, I saw your hand for an item.
Yeah, I just want, one item. So I just wanted to confirm that I'm planning to have, planning work sessions, day-long sessions with the board. And we have it once a quarter, and most likely on a Friday, since that's the lighter day. So, with your concurrence, I will go ahead and schedule those, for the rest of the year.
Are we about getting ready to wind down? I've got one more quick one just to kind of to end the note, end our morning on.
Go ahead, sir.
This is a article out of the County News. It's our National Association of Counties, and they put out a monthly publication or bi-weekly, I'm not sure. Anyway, they comment on what counties are doing, what they're attempting to do. And I don't want this to sound like sour grapes, but it kind of, that's the way it comes across, because I didn't support the atrium, but I just want to make comment on this because I think it is so timely. King County, Washington has introduced a protective escort service for county workers. The walking bus program provides security officers to escort those workers from the county courthouse to nearby public transit centers. While the officers will not be armed, radio station Como TV reported they will have ballistic vests, pepper spray, and radios. And I see that as going to be a need. I've had numerous county employees ask me how we're going to address this issue at the new facility. So I just mentioned that at least we should at least be thinking about something like that if this program continues. I mean, you never know. We might find that the work at home thing is such a big deal, we'll have to change our mind. But I'm not holding my breath on that. I recognize the democratic process. So I bring this up just as a point of interest that we might need to think about. That's it for me, ma'am.
Okay.
Question for the county manager. Is there any update that you can provide on the Franz Anderson, purchase that we were, I heard there were other bidders and I wasn't sure where, I hadn't heard anything about that.
We're currently conducting an appraisal, with the city of Olympia. And as soon as that appraisal is in place, that's when we can actually make a formal offer. I believe there is an opportunity. The seller is really holding until the city of Olympia and the county can go ahead and, so I believe there is, continues to be part of that strategy.
Okay, thanks.
In terms, I guess, Mike, Commissioner Adam, it's gonna be in terms of the, I know you said you were going to be meeting with staff yesterday to talk about this whole situation with the hotels and the people there and the request to extend the stay, so
Yes.
can we have an update?
Thank you. I have an agenda item for Tuesday morning, a more robust conversation, but I can give you what I work with staff. We extend the hotel stay for another 10 days, and we have coordinated that with the city of Olympia. And I'm working with the staff to bring a proposal to the board for a longer strategy that will include some sort of resources provided to that. So what I did is extended that 10 days just to give us time to provide a more robust plan. We're looking for grants at the state level. That's what staff is looking as to what we can access to that. But on Tuesday morning, I do have an item to get a little more in-depth conversation on that.
Perfect. Okay. So should the homeless strategies or standing item, should we move that just to have a more robust conversation on it?
No,
or-
I will have a Commissioner Adams
Okay,
later. I think it requires more than,
then what,
Yeah.
the information. Okay. Anything further?
Good meeting,
Commissioner
Chair.
Edwards? Commissioner Menser? Okay, we're
No.
good to go. Okay, this meeting's adjourned.
thank you.